So this is what you do the first time we're back together as a family. Vampire Book Club.
Warning, this podcast, Vampire Book Club, will contain spoilers from The Vampire Diaries, The Originals, and Legacies. Hey guys, my name is Michaela. Welcome to my podcast. Like I said, there will be spoilers, and that is also includes Legacies, the books, and The Originals, as well as the TV show, The Vampire Diaries. Don't forget to check out my links in the description. In today's episode, I'm going to be discussing my perfect endgame list. It is just my opinion personally. You do not have to agree with me, obviously, but please do respect me. I am all for a healthy debate, but in a respectful manner. Let me know who you guys would prefer to be shipped down below in the comments or whatever. Personally, I've decided that I'm not going to share my favorite legacies, relationships, even though I wanted to include a couple. I'm just not going to go into that show with this topic. I don't feel as passionate about all the relationships as I do in The Originals and The Vampire Diaries, so I'm just going to stick with those two shows. I am going to start out with my number one favorite relationship in the entire series. These probably won't be in order. I just wanted to start with my favorite first. And although they weren't actually a relationship, they will always be my favorite. Deep down in my soul. That is Klaus and Caroline, of course. Now, they may be a little toxic, but I'm going to say what relationship in this show is not toxic. There isn't one at all. And if there was, they killed it off almost instantly. So, I am Caroline. I would love to pretend that I'm not, but I have so many insecurities. I relate to Caroline when she says, Elena doesn't try at all, and guys just throw themselves at her. And I try so hard, and I'm never the one. And I feel that way on many levels. I relate to Caroline. She is definitely the most relatable character for me. We see her in the beginning get rejected by Stefan, be talked about by Matt, by Tyler, by even Aaron before he even meets her. But Klaus never speaks disrespectfully about Caroline ever. Although Klaus does use her to teach Stefan and Tyler a lesson, he instantly saves her. He didn't really have a relationship. He didn't really know her then. I don't count that bite as toxic. I do count the second bite as toxic. But I'm only half delusional, guys, okay? But come on now. There's just something about a man who literally says that Tyler is your first love and I'm going to be your last, however long it takes. How can you not love that? And Klaus's ego and his control issues and his insecurities are so real and so big. And for some reason, he is super attracted to Caroline and he needs her to shut him down. He needs her to... Most people just throw themselves at Klaus for his reputation or his power or whatever it may be. And we all know he has abandonment issues, so I'm sure that helps. That's why he probably chases those who reject him. How Haley instantly tells him off and they sleep together. And Caroline always tells him off and he just keeps chasing her and telling her how much he likes her. And she's just like, why? She doesn't even believe that it's possible. And I think they both really needed each other in those aspects. And literally every single line that they have to each other lives in my head rent-free, on repeat, to the point where I use it in my everyday life on a regular basis. It's just, they love each other. They don't have a reason. And it's just not a crime to love what you cannot explain. And I really love how he needs her validation. He doesn't really care what most people think. And he does have moments with Camille. And he cares about Camille. And he cares about Haley. And he's just really into strong moments. But for me, and his love with Cammy is real. And his love for his baby mama is also real. But Cammy just didn't belong in that world. And she's not really my favorite character. But she just didn't belong in the vampire world. They would have made more sense for Caroline to be in the Michelson world than for Camille to be. Clearly, Caroline lasted longer than almost all of the vampires in the show, with the exception of like Marcel and Rebecca. And don't get me wrong, I also really like Stefan and Caroline. I think they have some really cute moments. I also like Tyler with Caroline. They were even cuter. Stefan and Caroline being Endgame was really awful for me due to the fact that Stefan, I don't think, ever got over Elena. And even though he saves like the entire town of Mystic Falls, I think it was solely for Elena and Damon's happiness. And I don't think that he ever, even just the fact that Caroline and Stefan had this wedding to lure Catherine out. If he truly cared about Caroline, he would have not let her rush a wedding. She is the type of girl who has been dreaming for a wedding forever, has like a wedding book. The fact that you're going to use it as a scheme and a plot to get your ex-girlfriend enemy lured in really bothered me on so many levels. She just deserved more, and Klaus would have given her that. Klaus literally was waiting for her for centuries. Well, declared that he would have. And the writer's reasoning for not making Caroline and Klaus's endgame at the end of the originals really bothers me because it was to honor Stefan, which he didn't deserve, especially in terms of Caroline. She deserved somebody who never loved Elena, who would have put her wedding first and would have chased, and it just wasn't Stefan, guys. If Stefan and Caroline did have to end up together, I really would have liked to see Klaus be a part of their relationship as a throuple. That would have been everything for me. But I really didn't like Stefan specifically for Caroline, or vice versa. And every time I get to season 5 of the originals, I lose it. Also, season 5, episode 11 of The Vampire Diaries. I really, truly love that technically Caroline is Klaus's endgame because he dies after they kiss. Not that that really counts, but in my mind, it does. And I love that she never really, even though she knew he was bad and did horrible things, she knew always that he was never the villain in her story. And I just love them together, and you could never change my mind. The next one that I'm going to talk about is probably not very common, but they just had so much chemistry. And for me, it's going to be Freya and Lucian. So, however, I do love Keelan and Freya, but Keelan just deserves so much better than Freya. Freya was awful. And the way that Lucian talks to Freya and understands Freya, and just the chemistry and the flirtatiousness that they have between each other is amazing. And they could have been endgame if he had not had a crazy vendetta against the rest of their family, specifically their brother Klaus, but really all. And another ship that isn't really that big or talked about for me would have been Vincent and Cammy. They made more sense together as a witch and a human. They had a really great friendship, and I just really liked them. And I like how Vincent continuously brings up to Klaus after she's gone that Cammy would have been proud of you, or you're letting her down, or just speaks on her behalf. Claire Holt goes really well with a lot of the male actors in the show, which is really hard to do for Matt. And her and Nina are one of the few that do it really well. Rebecca's endgame for me is always going to be Marcel, and I know some people feel uncomfortable about this because of how old Marcel was when they met. And although they do want you to make it seem like he's 10, he actually could be older. He just says that his mom was going to name him when he was 10. Not that he is 10. And while people make that assumption, it could be true. There's no actual solid proof in the episodes that say that he's 10. Also, it was the 1820s. People got married at 15 and had a whole family. Also, Rebecca was frozen and turned at 16, 17. And if your concern is with her seeing him grow up from a smaller child to an adult, we don't know that she wasn't daggered, because in 1821, she's not in the flashbacks. And I know that has more to do with the actress, but she's not in the flashbacks. She was daggered so much. It's very possible. that she wasn't undaggered until he was much older. We don't really know. However, with all that being said, I do not in any way condone child grooming. I do not think that's what happened in this situation, and it is also a fake TV show. However, their adult relationship is beautiful. It is probably one of the least toxic and probably would be the least toxic relationship in the show if the way that they met was different. Marcel and Rebecca wait for each other and they come back to each other over and over and over again, and they fight for each other. They respect each other's boundaries. When you first see them get together, there is an undeniable connection immediately. Marcel literally builds a house for her and waits for her to come back. However, she was staggered this whole time, and he did not go to look for her because she was running with Klaus, and the plan was for them to get rid of Klaus. So he never chased after her, which does make sense. And she never went back for him because she saw the building that he was trapped in burned down and assumed he was dead. He was not dead. And she ends up in the compound again. It turns out that Marcel did not change one thing in her room because he was hoping for her to come back. That's a century. He held on to his love for her for a century. He literally designed a home for them to live in and to be together forever in. In every scheme that he comes up with against the Michelsons, she is never included in these schemes. As far as collateral damage, she does help him, but that's by her own choice. And he always thinks of her. Like the wedding dress thing, when she was like, he buys her that wedding dress, and she was like, I said I hated it. And he was like, yeah, but your eyes didn't say that. He just knows her so well and actually cares about her. He says, if you ever think in 100 years that I would do anything to hurt you, you think you got to be confusing me with Klaus. And when Marcel is trying to kill her brothers, Haley is like, I know something that can stop him. Wakes up Rebecca, and she is able to stop him from biting Klaus, even though he already bit the other two brothers before she got there. She knows that this bite can take her down, and it cracks me up every time because she's just like, Marcel won't hurt me if he knows what's good for him. She's just threatening him, has no ground to stand on, and doesn't care. It's great. Other than their love for each other, obviously. I think my favorite part about this relationship, though, is that no matter what, they keep being torn apart by choice or by circumstance, and they respect each other and still care about each other, but still find a way back to each other where they're not just jumping into it and we have to be to each other. They let them, she lets him run the city. He lets her be a part of her family for so long. And eventually he's just like, I thought it was family too. We can't put our love off anymore for your family. We've been doing this for 200 years, bro. And when she refuses his proposal, my heart breaks. My heart breaks so deeply. And Klaus just keeps coming at him, making jokes. It's so, so Klaus. And Marcel finally confronts Rebecca and says, why did you reject me? Even your pain in the ass brother is happy. And she's like, I was just trying not to hurt you. And he's like, well, you're doing a pretty good job of destroying me right now. My heart literally breaks. And I totally understand where she's coming from because every time she falls in love, it somehow her lover gets killed or something happens. Mostly it's usually from Klaus. But it's just, I get why she's afraid of it. However, they were totally meant for each other, and I'm glad that we got at least one endgame that deserved to be endgame together. And my next will be Cole and Davina, just because we were just talking about them. That's the pain in the ass brother that is happy and in love. Cole literally is this chaotic, crazy, teenage-looking boy when he comes into the Vampire Diaries. He doesn't care about anything. He just cares about the thrills. He is definitely a thrill seeker. And then he's in a witch body and he gets his thrills back for magic again because he is the only one of his siblings who truly connected to magic before they returned, other than possibly Freya. And he's the only one who really wants a life separate from the Michelsons. Even with his crazy antics, I think he still always wanted a separate life from the Michelson family. He never really felt like he belonged with the always and forever thing. But he wasn't as hated as Finn was. And Davina was shunned by her own family because she did not want to get slaughtered for a sacrifice. So they both kind of have some abandonment issues with trying to belong to their families and their cultures. And he does meet her in a witch's body, but he still loves her deeply no matter what. And he sees that it's not healthy to be in a codependent relationship with his family, and that he chooses over and over again Davina and to be happy with her, whether he loses her or not. And it's a side of him you don't see except for with Davina. He truly only cares about her and maybe Hope a little bit too. And yes, he loves his siblings, but it's not in the same way or in the same regard at all. For Elijah, it will always be Haley. And yes, I do really like Elijah with Catherine and even Gia. But the moment that Haley and Elijah meet, it is a profound connection, in the words of Elijah. And this is even when Elijah does not have memories. They have an instant connection. And the writers really destroyed this relationship in every way that they possibly could. It was awful. I hated it. She marries another man for her people, and she never quite loves him like she does Elijah. The moment they meet, they are truly in love with each other. He's the only man that asks her how she's feeling about being a mother. Not about a miracle baby, not about anything crazy that's happening, but how she feels about being a mother. And he instantly wants to protect her and her child. And in the conversation where he's asking her like how she feels about being a mother, he says, "I'll always protect you." And the writers really screwed that one up too, because the irony is that he was trying to protect her. The acts of him trying to protect her is actually what got her killed in the long run, which really breaks my heart just thinking about it. He tells her when she says, "I am going to marry Jackson to unify my people," he allows her to do so and says, "Bring your daughter home. You unify your people and I will unify my people." And that's the first time they sleep together. I love it. And he ends up killing off Jackson's killers, even though they are part of his cult thing that he had created way back when, the Strix. He does this to protect her and because to honor Jackson, I think. And when he comes back to her with the list, she's like, "I can't do this, Elijah. I should have honored Jackson when he was alive, and I didn't. I'm going to do that now. I'm letting you go." And Elijah's just like, "Yeah, that seems like the right thing to do. I tried that once. It didn't work." And I'm just like, oh my God, stop being stupid. Your one obstacle is out of the way. Stop feeling guilty. He chose that too. Jackson agreed. Jackson knew that you loved him. Elijah knew that you loved him. You knew that you loved him. I don't know what the problem is. And the way that she consoles him when he ultimately kills Marcel. And honestly, I don't agree with it, but I think it's beautiful and I think it's what you should do in a relationship. I don't think she was right. I don't think he was right. He knew he wasn't right, but there was nothing they could do about it at that point. Well, at least they thought there wasn't anything that they could do about it. But they truly did care and support each other in every way possible. And even Klaus supported their relationship and says, "Don't make mistakes like I do. Tell my brother how you feel." And Klaus also says, like, "You didn't lose the love of your life." And I was just like, "You didn't either, Klausy Boo." When Camille dies and Jackson dies, obviously. My endgame for Josh will always be Aiden. They're so cute. This is probably the actual least toxic ship in the TVDU, at least in the originals. They care about each other. They respect each other for the most part. they struggle a little bit with them being on different sides of this like war that's going on between the wolves and the vampires. I think Aiden mostly struggles with it, but at the end of the day, he's trying to protect Josh, and Josh is just like, I'm never safe. I want to be loved and not safe if I'm going to be not safe at all. I don't ever feel safe. The safest I feel is basically like with you. They're just, I love them. And they like finally are going to get out of this craziness. They don't want to be in the middle of this huge war. They want to be happy together. And they decide to run away with each other. And Josh ends up saying bye to everybody all day long. And it is the saddest thing ever, when he should have been, I'm about to cry just talking about it. And he should have said goodbye to Aiden, because Aiden was killed while he's saying all his goodbyes to everyone else. But they are cutely reunited in the afterlife or the other side or whatever or wherever they are. My endgame for Bonnie is Enzo. While I do like Bonnie with Jeremy a little bit, she deserved Enzo. She deserved more than Enzo, honestly. She deserved him staying alive. Thanks, Stefan. Never forgive you for that. Not the first time or the second time, but especially not the second time. And then Bonnie shows up to Stefan and Caroline's wedding. Like, I would never. And I understand why she didn't want to, and I understand why she did, but I still don't think I would have. That girl has sacrificed herself in every way. She loses her mother, she loses her grandmother, she loses her father, all to save Elena Gilbert. And still loses Enzo, basically still to save Elena Gilbert. But we're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about how they were a perfect couple for each other, because they were. Enzo protects Bonnie and cares about Bonnie and cares about what Bonnie cares about. He shows her all these things, and it's more like a Stockholm Syndrome type thing that happens between them. But it's really, really cute. And you can see that he cares deeply about the people that he cares about. And she is definitely now one of them when she becomes one of them. And she also cares about him in return. I love the scene where they are in that like house that he had kept her in for so long, and she traps him in there. And he's just like, she's like, I will not abandon you. I will not abandon you. He suffers from so much abandonment issues. And she's like, I will stay with you. Even if I die, I will stay with you. And it's so beautiful. It is probably my favorite scene in the entire universe. Where, at least emotional scene. And eventually he does end up saving her and turning back his humanity on, or breaking the bond from the siren thing, or whatever it is that is happening there. I think when Damon finds out that they are dating, it's pretty funny. And I think that they just deserved each other. They both got the shit end of a stick, and they both needed somebody who cared about them as much as they cared about others. And they got that in each other for sure. Just Enzo in general really amazes me. I mean, Bonnie does as well. But the fact that Enzo came from like so much abandonment. From at 4 years old, he was put into a workshop, then he's just been abandoned over and over. And then he's locked up in a prison. Isolated in a cell. His only human exposure is, the majority of his human exposure is torture. And he just has such, and he's a little wild at first, and he comes out that way, but I think he just needed to get some stuff out of his system, and some resentment that he might have had towards Damon as well. And I think he just needed a friend. But he has a very good outlook just on life. And he's a good person despite everything that he has gone through. Even when Enzo was with the siren, he was like sending Bonnie signs and just trying to reach out to her in ways that he could. And like just the book that they read together. I love it. I love it all. I'm really happy that they ended up together. It really sucks that they didn't get their happy ending like they deserved. They deserve that so much over bringing fucking Elena back, honestly, in my opinion, to give Damon and Elena their happy ending. Like, if Elena had been there, maybe that would have been one thing. But she wasn't there for 2 years. Like, I don't know. It wasn't cool. Okay, so for Stefan, it's gonna be Catherine, because Kitty Cat needs her Harrow hair. Every cat is always choking up some hair. Anyways, so I love how Catherine. I love a villain hero love trope. I love the chase, and I love how Catherine is the villain in this scenario. Don't get me wrong. I love Stefan with Elena. I love Stefan with Rebecca. I love Stefan. I like Stefan with Valerie. But Stefan definitely was hired because of the chemistry he had with Nona. Like, Paul Wesley was hired with because of the chemistry that he had with Nina. And I just think that the Stefan Catherine is where it belongs. I really love just how Catherine chases him and is like, I came back for you, Stefan. And I think it's like the only thing that she's fucking honest about. Or at least one of the very few things that she's honest about. I just love the way that she's always like, I want you and I'm here for you. I care about you. And she doesn't really care for a lot. She cares for Stefan and she cares for Nadia and she cares for herself. And like maybe a little bit Damon. Catherine and Caroline's little friendship is cool. I like that Catherine allows herself to be remained and like tied up so she can spend time with Stefan. She's like, I missed you. I want to spend time with you. And I like how in season 5, where their species is switched, where now she's a human because they met when he was a human and she was a vampire that turned him. Now we see her as a human and him as a vampire, and I really liked, I just liked that aspect of it, where they could never be in love as two vampires, but they could as a human and a vampire. And how he reads the letter to Nadia, and he's to Nadia from Catherine, and she's on the clock tower about to jump, and he saves her, and then they just help each other through, like, she was helping him with the PTSD, and even like in their other relationships, and how she's always just chasing him. I loved it. It was great. And I even think that she went to as far Mrs. Plan A, B, C, D, E, the whole alphabet. Like, you know how it works, right? I think she 100% planned for Stefan to be the one to sacrifice himself, knowing all of them, and chose to have, like, even if it just opened a little bit, like, to be able to be with Stefan sooner rather than later. Eternity in hell. As messed up as this sounds, I think, like, it's enough, like, where, so, like, he loves Elena still, obviously, Stefan, but, like, I think it can be Catherine because of their resemblance, but I think that Elena in the first place is because of Catherine's resemblance. So, does he really love Catherine? Or, and Elena was just a cover-up? But the good parts that he thought she was? So, I think that's the only way it works for me. Because in his weird, like, mind, it's like an alternate version of her. I mean, it kind of is. Even though it's really not. Even Catherine says, I'm Catherine Pierce, the only one, kinda. So I am also a Damon and Elena shipper. They are my endgame. And as much as I didn't want them to be, and I sometimes still don't want them to be, they just are. I hate that Damon stole Elena from his brother, but they make sense. He shows up for Elena nonstop. He even tries to get, and I know he loves his brother too, but he also tries to get his brother back for Elena. And just the thing, it shows how much he cares about both of them. Damon is really actually sweet, even though he likes to murder and shit. Yeah. And I wish that they hadn't really gotten together through a sire bond. I wish it was actually like, and I know it is, like, it ends up actually being her feelings, but I just didn't like that. I didn't think they needed that. But I know they were just trying to get, like, Stelena fans to be holding, to still, like, they wanted the tension, make it interesting. I get it. But even when Elena doesn't have memories, she falls in love with him. Damon always cares about him, even cares about her, like, on a really deep level. She still falls in love with him, like I said. Had no memories of, like, their past. She was bothered so deeply by his death that she had to erase her memories, but not her best friend of so many years that sacrificed literally everything for them. But I guess, like, I don't know. It was weird, but I really did like them together. But like I said, this is a ship I don't want to ship, but I just do. They just make sense. They belong together. He does love her, but they were very toxic. They were, like, probably, I didn't like them at all. Like, the toxic level of things. Like, how, like, she was, like, he killed her brother. And even the second time, that's all she remembered was that he killed her brother. She had nothing to go with it and, like, still found a way to do it again. You killed my brother and I'm going to date you not once, but twice after not knowing who you were. Just thinking you were your ex's brother. He sacrifices himself. He just swam to find her daylight ring. He, like, just put her in the water so she didn't burn. He was always able to save her. And even before, like, she was tired, when he comes back and he tells Catherine, I wouldn't have went back for you. I love when he rejects her. He waits for her for 100 and something years and literally just, like, she breaks his heart and he's like, fuck you, bitch. I wish I could do that because I can't. I am not that good. I'm getting there, though. So I also really liked Jeremy and Anna. They were friggin' adorable. I like the way they meet. I like how she's, like, stalking him. And she's like, you think it's this, like, little homeschool girl, but she's a vampire. And little Gilbert's just like his big sister when he finally figures out that she is a vampire. Something about that Gilbert kitchen that's, like, makes you want to cut your hand and see what your vampire lover will do. But I actually think that I like the Jeremy Anna scene better, just because, like, Anna feeds off of him in that moment and it's hot and Jeremy's just like, yeah, go at it. I love it. Go for it. Do it. And I know, and I hate that he does this to Bonnie. I hate that he, like, cheats on her with a ghost. But if the person that you were in love with died and you had a chance to kiss them, wouldn't you? I mean, I wouldn't say go off and date them because that's just weird, because, like, it can't happen. But, and it's not how it's meant to be. But I think his kiss is justified. I just don't think, like, him being in a relationship or trying to be with her was. It's, like, a very cute, like, teenage romance. And she's just looking for her mom, and she was using him all along, and he's a Gilbert, and so she was going to feed him the Gilbert blood, because that's what took down her mother. I like that. And then she doesn't want to because she ends up actually liking him. And when her mom does die, Jeremy is there for her. It was so sad when she died. I hated John Gilbert for that. I hated him for other things too, but that was a big one. My next end game is definitely Matt and Nadia. I just didn't really know. Like, I liked Matt and Penny too, and I liked Matt with others as well. I just, with all my other end games in a row, this is where I am landed. I do really like them though. I think they're cute. I think that she could have killed Matt, but instead canoodles with him, as she says. And even though she manipulates him in the first place, they just kind of work together. I still don't understand how Matt Donovan is, other than Damon, is the only man in the show to have a threesome with two women. I will never understand. Damon made sense. But definitely not Matt. I wish we got to see more of them, but I did like them. They were okay. They would be my end game. So my end game for Alaric is definitely Joe. It's really sad that they didn't get to have their babies. Thank goodness for Caroline. When they bring Joe back in Legacies, it's everything. I feel all the feels that I wanted to feel. I like when Joe and Alaric first meet in the Vampire Diaries. Like, they're the older people. It's Elena's teacher, professor, and Elena's supervisor or boss. I'm really not sure what Joe is to Elena, what her actual profession, her actual title is, but yes. She may also be her teacher / boss / whatever. However, when they first meet, they have like instant chemistry. They're really good to each other. They're really good with each other, I mean. She's just kind of pushing him out of his comfort shell, and he's like losing his game because he's a vampire now and he wants to eat his date. She's a witch and she can't be compelled, even though she doesn't have her magic. And he tries to like uncompel her, and she's like, I single-handedly had the most fun. Like, where I single-handedly saved dozens of lives. She knows what she wants. They're really good, and he tries to bring her back from the dead, and it gets weird. And when he realizes it's not her, that was like so heartbreaking, but he was really good about it. And I think that's like, it was good. They were perfect for each other, and they should not have killed her either. I also genuinely loved Tyler and Liv. I think that they were Liv was definitely hostile to him in the beginning, but it was because she liked him. I like the way that he protected her when he found out that she was going to merge, or tried to, even though he took it a little too far. That's what Tyler tends to do. He can't let go of things. But I am so not one to talk about that topic specifically. I love when he's like, no, seriously, like, I'm not going to let you go out there into the world and have to merge with your twin brother. And she's like, I'm trying to enjoy my life, bro. She's like, worst comes to worst. Like, here's your options. You're going to date a super powerful witch, leader of the Gemini Coven, or you can date Luke. Oh, I love it. It was funny. And he's just like, no, I'm not joking about this. I'm serious. And how when the lives that Joe saved and Tyler almost kills one person, everybody else is saved. This guy's about to die, and Liv actually kills so he doesn't have to turn back into a wolf again. I always wonder if would it still be painless to him? Would it even really bother him? Did it bother him when he started to turn again? But anyways, I also like that when Tyler becomes a werewolf again, he kills Liv to put her out of her misery and says, I won't, you gave me a second shot. I won't let this one go to waste. I loved it. And I think he's the one that bites Kai, but I really don't remember, and kills Kai. I think that's why it didn't go to waste in that moment. Obviously, he killed his entire family and ruined his sister's wedding, almost killed their babies. crazy stuff. So I really wanted to see them in the end, like, instead of that being Vicky. And I think it was because it was Matt's friends and nothing to do with it being, like, Matt's best friends. It was Tyler and Vicky, but I really wish they had included Liv in that shot as well for Tyler. Would have been cool. I think a lot of people assume that Vicky and Tyler end up together. I don't think that's what was going on, but maybe. And I'm going to ship Jenna with Logan because I can't ship her with Alaric or Elijah. And or John Gilbert, I can't even do that. I thought about it. But I think that John and Isabel will be my endgame. And Jenna and Logan, I like both the facts that they have history and chemistry, but mostly I'm just going to talk about Jenna and Logan because I don't care about John Gilbert or his happiness. Or Isabel's for that matter. But Jenna's I care about. And I think that her endgame should have been Logan. I like that they knew each other and had like a relationship, but he was a little con artisty. But I think that if he hadn't turned into a vampire, it would have been better. But he did, and he died, and then she doesn't let him in, and he gets a little villainous, but I think he's just like desperate. But who knows? I think that's everybody in my, Silas and Amara, and now I think we're done. For the most part, I think that's it. If you guys can think of anybody else that I'm forgetting, let me know. Let me know who you also ship in the comments. Have a wonderful day or night. See you soon. Bye.